meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission, January 7th, 2025 is now open. First thing, I guess, will be roll calls. Eleanor?
Present.
Ken?
Here.
Jimmy, I see you. Yeah, you're muted. Yeah. And I'm present, so there are 4 of us. Next. Jimmy, if,
All right, you can hear me now?
yeah,
Okay.
you want to take over?
Yeah, you should take over.
I just asked if you wanted to take over. If you want me to
No,
continue, I
I'm
can.
saying, no, I think you can take over.
All right, I'll continue then. I
Yep.
guess the next matter would be review of the minutes from previous meeting, which I don't have open, sorry.
Friggin' phone with this thing.
It's December 3rd and December 17th.
Is it okay if we approve them at the next meeting? Because they just came out a few minutes before the meeting.
No.
You've got 3 weeks, don't you?
From when they're,
That's
Public.
fine. Follow from the next agenda.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So we will defer the immediate minutes to the next meeting.
Okay.
So moving to the rest of the agenda. It's lost.
Okay. Go ahead.
The next matter on the agenda is the wetland bylaw discussion. And we have 2 other matters. Should we deal with the Nablus Road discussion first, since that's likely to be simpler and quicker than,
It's up to you. You're running it.
seems like let's move in that order. Ethan, do you want to talk to us about the Nablus Road?
Sure. So we issued them an enforcement order back in October, and since then they followed up on every one of the conditions, and they're fully within compliance of what we told them. So I met with Peter Ogren, and we did a site visit with John Ogren. Did a site visit, and I confirmed that all the conditions were met. So they were just looking for a letter from us to confirm that they are within compliance of all the conditions.
Is it, it would seem like we need to vote to approve, authorize you to draft a letter to that effect, I would think.
Yeah, I drafted a letter. I sent it out with the materials.
Ah, that's right. I did see it in the meeting materials. Okay.
You have to vote to lift the enforcement order.
Sorry, Judy.
You have to vote to lift the enforcement order.
Right, okay. I guess we'll need a motion then to lift the enforcement order.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion on lifting the enforcement order? Any questions from the public? Okay, we'll vote on that motion then. Motion in front of us is to lift the enforcement order on 1 Nablus. All in favor? Eleanor?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So that motion is carried. We can issue the letter. lifting the enforcement order at this point.
Do you all like the letter or do you want anything changed on it?
I can share, I can put it on the screen if you want.
That'd be a
Yeah.
good idea. Thanks.
The question I have is, it says 0 Nablus. Is it 1 Nablus or 0?
It could be 1 Nablus, but what the enforcement order was written to was 0 Nablus, so I just kept it consistent.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. My only problem with the letter is the first line. Compliance by the Wakefield Conservation Commission of the enforcement order. Makes it sound like we're complying with the order.
The way I saw it was the acknowledgement is by the commission, but I could change the wording a bit. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah, I would just say compliance.
Yeah.
For the above named property with the enforcement order issued by the Wakefield Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
But other than that, I
Wait.
don't have any issues with it. It looks fine.
Or the Wakefield Concom acknowledges compliance,
Better. Thank you.
enforcement order.
Mhm.
Yes.
Good.
Always simplify the language as much as you can.
Can you put something, you concur that restoration is complete? Can you, was there a list of items that we requested? You
Yeah,
said-
I could list them in the letter.
You don't have to list them, but you could just say all the items,
Yeah.
listed, provided or required by the enforcement order were completed, something like that. Is that all right?
Yep, I'll do that.
Any other thoughts or suggestions? Jim?
No, I'm trying to read it. It's kind of small on my phone.
Is it possible to type in the edits into the
Oh, there
letter?
you go. What's that?
Is it possible to type in the edits to the letter?
What's the concern?
Well, if
Ethan's just doing the editing right now.
yeah, perfect.
I think that's Ken typing it, but
That's
Okay.
me, sorry.
Yeah. It makes it accessible for people who are deaf or hard of hearing.
Ah. Good thought. Actually, I would suggest taking out the word "the" there before compliance and the "of." And just compliance with rather than of the enforcement order for the above named property, demonstrating successful completion, etc.
Is that good enough?
Did you want a further reference to the
Uh,
conditions we laid out, Ken?
Or that restoration, that
Restoration is okay.
is it requested or do we require?
Required for restoration are complete.
What are we talking about here? Oh, someone's typing.
We're basically editing the letter right now. Ken's basically been typing in. That looks good.
That's fine by me.
Mhm.
All right. I'll send this to you, Ethan.
yes, thank you.
No problem.
Excellent. That was efficient.
Mhm.
Good job. Good job.
Okay.
All right, we're done with that.
Next item on the agenda then is, well, it's bylaw discussion and the bylaw review committee letter. So I think they're one combined topic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's two separate things to deal with, though. One would be the letter. If you want to read the letter and start picking that apart.
Because that was to repeal the stream setback, right?
Well, that's, can you pull it up on
Which one do you want me to pull up? I'm sorry,
the letter? Judy knows where it is. What's,
I can share it, I think.
is
yeah.
it Wakefield Bylaw Review Committee, attention Daniel Lieber?
Yes,
Yeah, I think that's it.
that's
I
the
got it.
one.
I got it. Let me know if it comes through.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you make the writing a little bit bigger? Okay, thank you. Okay, so could you read this? This is basically our first attempt, and I do see some things that need to be changed, but can you just read it through and then we can talk about it?
mhm.
Judy, did you make any more changes to this after we did the other changes?
At the end, but I think you have to figure out whether you're gonna meet the deadline for the bylaw first, before you go over this.
Meet the deadline for the what?
It still has to go to the planning board. before-
Yeah, okay, but we can't do this?
Well, I think it was gonna be in tandem with that,
Okay,
so I think you
The
just.
timing on getting the bylaw to the planning board, Judy.
Well, they have to have a hearing, so they have to post it twice before their meeting. So there's not a lot of time left if you want to be on the April town meeting.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about.
okay.
So can we work? I don't know if we want to at least finish this part of the setback and then talk about the deadlines and work our way backwards.
It looks,
Whatever you want to
like you
do.
might- looks like you might not be meeting the deadline if we're still looking for that April town meeting. So if you want to work on this separate or together, just keep
Well,
that in mind.
can we just, all right, how about if we do this? Let's read it. If it looks like it's too messy and too many errors, we'll jump over to the other thing. But I was hoping we could get both things done or close to being done. Is that all right with everyone?
But they're willing to give
Yes.
it a try. Sure.
All right, so
Yes.
when you, let's,
Let me start over.
yeah. Okay,
Tell me when to scroll.
let me see. So,
You need a verb in the first line.
a verb.
They
Okay.
are in the process.
Okay, would like to,
I have that in there. Haley sent me that change. Yeah, that's in there.
in the process of developing wetlands.
Sorry, Judy, I don't have yours to cross-reference.
But it might just be the two minor changes that she made on in this one.
Okay.
Okay, so paragraph 1 looks okay.
Yeah,
The next one get down just goes through, let's see. I'd like to take the opportunity to. I mean, that looks fine to me. But let's hear everyone else. Is Haley here?
no,
Yes, can
Hmm.
you hear me?
Oh, you are.
I hear you,
Okay.
there you are. Yeah,
Oh, okay, sorry, I had technical difficulties.
okay,
And this was taken word by word from the bylaw.
that, yeah,
The
This is an
second
old,
paragraph, yeah.
this is an old bylaw if they're, if you're talking about environmental quality and engineering standards, holy
It's from
smokes.
1998, and that's why I asked, that's why I sent what they're reviewing now, because their current draft has this old wording.
Yikes.
On the next paragraph,
yeah.
I'd suggest changing the word defers to delegates authority to the commission.
Uh,
But it's not really delegates, because they're just, they're not actually asking you to do it.
So what is it, Judy? I mean, do we have the authority or don't we?
But if you read through the rest of it, they go by what they've done so far is they've gone by the commission's setback. They've used whatever setback the commission decides in their NOI hearings as what they use in their hearing. So that's how they're deferring to the commission.
So they're deferring to the authority of the commission for determining the applicability?
Correct.
Yeah, that's right off.
Okay.
Can't we say in this section that it's a duplicative process? I guess the 3 points I took from our last meeting on this was that it was a duplicative permit. And that the river, that it was gonna give applicants relief. You know,
Well, yeah, because, well, we're gonna eliminate the need for, Board of Appeals or anyone else to do anything, right? It's all gonna just be conservation.
right, so can't we say that right up front?
Well, read down the rest of it and see if I wrote a paragraph in the back, I think is. I might have to read the rest of it before we go. Okay. Jeez. There we go, so. Um. Let's see. Okay.
I think that paragraph makes makes its point.
Okay.
That last sentence is hard to parse, though.
Which, read it off, which one are
The
you talking
sentence
about?
that begins in the absence of empirically based guidelines. It's just,
Oh,
it's a very long sentence that
okay, yeah,
maybe start with, it is unclear how the ZBA could make this determination in the absence of, and then go on.
that looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's a little more direct and clear.
Yeah, okay. All right, can we scroll down some more?
This was deleted on purpose, I assume.
Judy must,
Yes.
Judy, did you
Yes.
delete that?
Yeah, you asked me to.
Oh, okay. I just didn't remember. Okay. Oh, shit.
Gonna throw out now to keep things all in the same line. In some places we call it activity, and in some places we're calling it construction. So in that first sentence, regulate construction. Should it be activity?
Yeah, it should be activity in both.
Yeah,
The first
okay.
paragraph is Jim's edits and the second is mine. It's not it's not the same paragraph.
Yeah, so,
It's a, that's an awkward to the ability of the alterations to not inhibit.
oh, shit. Where are we at? I don't, no one's saying anything. Where are
I'm
we
just
at?
reading that second sentence of this paragraph and trying to rebuild it in my head.
Oh, okay.
That one.
Yeah,
It's challenging. I'd just like to make it clearer. The allowable limit of activity in relation to the resource area is based on
the ability of the alterations to not inhibit protection of the 8 interests of the act. That,
Inhibit is kind of,
oh, you don't like that word?
it's just a what the heck happened here. Camera, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
My camera's decided to give it up for a bit.
Hmm. Tell me about mine.
Bring it back. Wrong camera now.
I see you.
Yeah, I'm using the now it's the in laptop camera instead of the one on top of the screen. So
No. It's nothing.
is based.
All right, so that's one alternate, right, Judy? Then the paragraph down below is the second alternate?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we read the bottom one now and see which one we want to, what
Which
is closer.
the next paragraph below is an alternate.
Yeah, the next, yeah, this is 2 alternatives that we're working on here. So we can read down to the next one and then try to compare to see which is sounds the best or works the best.
Again, we're bouncing between activity, construction, and work.
Uh-huh.
I like
think
the
that
second one better. I think it's more
Yeah.
straightforward.
I agree.
The allowable limit sentence, I think, reads a little easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we usually say allowable? Don't we just say okay, no, that's fine. Sorry.
Is there more after that?
There's gotta be one more, because there's 8 interests.
Okay, this determination is accomplished. Yeah, I mean, that's the last one there is the one I was most wanted to have.
And is the current proposal an arbitrary limit, or the current bylaw has an arbitrary limit, Jimmy?
Well, they just picked 50 feet and said, okay, no work past 50 feet. There was never any deliberation about it or talk about it or
Mhm.
you know, so
And that's currently in the bylaw.
that's currently in the bylaw, yes.
In the current bylaw.
Hmm.
Is the act the actual regulation? The act's regulations? I guess I should know this. Ethan,
Oh.
is the act actually the reg?
Well, do we cite the act? Are these in the act or in the regulation, those 8?
It should probably say performance standards.
He's in
Oh,
and
it's just performance standards.
associate, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Of the act and associate, that's good.
Okay. How's that look?
I think it looks pretty good.
What about up here? What was decided?
Well, we're gonna take off that big paragraph up there. It's kind of, it's
The
saying the
top
same
paragraph
thing.
goes away.
All of this?
Yeah,
Essentially, what we've done is expand that into the next 3 paragraphs.
right.
I think it makes more sense that way. It's takes a few more words, but it's clearer.
Okay.
Can you go back down to the bottom of the last paragraph? Can we, the establishment of an arbitrary limit of work line? It's noted that line is kind of weird. Is it work boundary or like,
Yeah, okay, so
Boundary.
I don't know if there's a better word.
right. The establishment
I
of
think-
an arbitrary limit of work. Well, just go limit of work. Just don't
Yeah,
put
you
line
can do
in there at
that.
all.
As contained, rather than noted, it's contained in the current.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a place where we can just also add that it will ease the burden on the applicant? And wasn't it also going to help the planning board for the ZBAs?
Burden of, wait a minute, Eleanor, the burden of proof on who?
Well, you're
The applicant?
I thought you were suggesting, Jimmy, that applicants currently sort of end up in double jeopardy because they've got to go to the ZBA and us, right?
Right. That's what we're trying to get rid of. And actually, the jurisdiction belongs with us anyways. It should
Right.
never have been.
Well, I think Eleanor's suggesting we should say something like that here.
Yeah, because
Okay. Okay.
yeah, because
I mean,
we're
I
trying
think
to
that's a
ease
good
the
point.
burden on the
Very good.
ZBA and the applicant.
Okay. So all right. So tell me what you're going to say again, because I don't think I heard it all.
Is there any
I-
recommended language? Go for it.
I think you could say, and we can move this around. Having a duplicative standard applied by both the ZBA and the Conservation Commission creates a burden on the applicant. Now we can fine tune this.
Did you say, uh,
Having a duplicative standard creates a burden on both the applicant and the ZBA when enforcement, or, when, these activities are normally handled by the Conservation Commission.
I don't think you want to say creates a burden on the applicant.
Yes.
Other wording you can use to say that?
Yeah.
You had mentioned that, Jim, because it creates extra engineering for them. And it's also, they'd have to, it's a time issue as well, getting on the ZBA. And I don't
Yeah.
think it is for the variance.
Would it read better the opposite way though, instead of saying having this duplicative creates a burden versus saying something like removing this standard relieves some of the burden?
Removing this duplicative standard.
Yeah, standard from the bylaw relieves the applicant and the ZBA.
Is there
I don't
something can we say something along the lines of, let me just think for a second. I forgot what I was going to say. Let me think about it for a minute.
Lessens the burden.
Mm. I want to say that the regulation of of stream setbacks falls on the Conservation Commission. Forget that.
I think you've said that.
Yeah, I guess I wanted them to know that we are more capable. We are in a better position to figure out how to regulate work within the wetland with the. I mean, we're in a better position to regulate work within the buffer zone or within a resource area than the ZBA or the building department would be able to do. So it's right that it belongs with us,
Yeah. The
but I don't know how you put that in there.
building department. Is
Paul, do you see what I'm saying? Do you think that's wrong? Do you think something along those lines is sufficient too?
Sorry about my scrolling here.
Paul?
I'm just reading it right now again, Jimmy. I mean, I think what we want to do is this, what you're trying to do is say that this standard is duplicative. It adds a lot of work for the applicants to go to both the ZBA and to us.
Yeah.
And the ZBA has no expertise on which to base its decisions. It's essentially deferring to us anyway, right?
Right.
So I tried reworking it. How about removing this duplicative standard from the bylaw lessens the burden on the applicant, comma, the building department, and the ZBA, period. Authority for determining setback standards and performance standards should reside with the Conservation Commission, who are the subject matter experts.
Mm.
That's good. You want to restate that so Ken can get it in there?
Sure, and then you can shorten it.
You can send it to me
Applicant, the
or
building,
just-
I can do it. Oh, authority for determining the setback standards. Can I use it? I don't think I can message you. Should reside with the Conservation Commission, comma, who are the subject matter experts.
Well, what do you think?
I think that works better.
Mm,
Don't need that, the rest of the language below then.
so can we wipe that out so that we can put it all one color lettering or something so we can see what it looks like all the way through?
Ken can take that stuff out, that what you had highlighted, Ken, yeah, good. So basically,
you start from the top.
Yeah. Someone gonna read it for us? Oh, you've got a good reading voice.
all right, I
Yes.
can do that. The Wakefield Conservation Commission, Commission would like to make you aware that they are in the process of developing a wetland bylaw with associated performance standards and regulations. It's anticipated that a draft will be completed in January for your review with the expectation of presenting it at the spring 2025 town meeting.
Can you pause a second? So we're not actually, it's not regulations, right? Just wetland bylaw.
With associated performance standards. You're right. Okay,
There are regulations with it though.
Okay.
So would that be separate? Kept separate? I don't know.
when we take action on it, will we be acting on the bylaw, performance standards and regulations?
Yeah, well, you'll have the regulations. I just
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't
Let's move on.
understand it.
Could I just suggest that the next sentence say, we anticipate that a draft instead of it is anticipated?
Yeah. I think that sounds better.
I just don't like passive voice.
Yeah.
We would also like to take this opportunity to advocate for repeal of the Town of Wakefield zoning bylaw, section 190-31H concerning stream setbacks. And then we cite the setback. Setback from an open stream, in no case shall any building or structure be permitted within 50 feet of the embankment of any open stream as defined by the Conservation Commission using the applicable Mass DE Department of Environmental Quality Engineering standards. As written, zoning bylaw section 190-31H, administered and permitted by the Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBA, defers authority to the commission for determination of its
The
applicability
determination.
for the determination of its applicability to a project.
Good.
Okay. So ZBA administers it, but the commission has to determine the applicability. As well, ZBA variance decisions are reliant on the commission's permitting determination regarding setback distance.
Can
Okay,
we pause for a second?
sure.
Yeah.
On that defers authority to the commission for determination of its applicability to a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it easier to say defers authority to the commission to determine?
Yes,
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. I think so too.
To determine,
its applicability.
or if the bylaw applies to a project, or Like, what are we saying?
Yeah,
they
that's
determine?
true. That to determine, yes, you're right.
Okay, yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah,
Bylaw
make it plain and
applies to a project. And I guess
Complying?
we should call it a zone, it's a zoning bylaw, right? I think we should
I don't know, actually,
okay.
wait a minute, so determine if the zoning bylaw.
Oh, hey, maybe I'm getting confused.
No,
Sorry.
that's right. That's right. You got it exactly, Eleanor. You take that "it's" out there, Ken. Yeah. To a project. Think you might need a space.
See when I take it out.
Before the, yeah, got it.
Are we determining if the zoning bylaw applies to a project, or are we determining if the wetlands? Well,
It's, are you sure it goes to zoning? I don't,
Yes, when you read that, it's unclear what they're asking. It seems to me. Because I mean, are they asking what the 50-foot measurement is? Are they asking whether it's a stream? Are they asking? I don't know what they're asking.
like, do they come to the commission and say,
No, I mean, just in the wording of that bylaw,
oh, okay,
where it says as
Well-
defined by the Conservation Commission.
so it's like they're looking for the commission to determine whether the building is going to be within 50 feet or 100 feet of an embankment.
well, not just of an embankment. Oh, yeah, we're talking about streams now, yeah.
Stream
It's only
setback.
stream here.
Yeah,
But what are they asking? Where is the 50-foot measurement? Are they asking, is this a stream? That's what doesn't, to me, that doesn't seem clear.
Not.
okay.
It's part of the problem with this bylaw.
Do you say location of an embankment or?
But embankment, that's another, I mean, it really.
No, I know.
Bank,
No, I know.
because.
It's not, it's
There's
not.
no such thing. I know.
There's no such thing as an embankment.
No,
There is-
Bank.
That's
That's-
the part of the
that's an
issue.
engineering term for something totally different.
Okay.
That's the issue with this bylaw. One of the reasons we're trying to.
Can we just say, can we just say that the embankment is the wrong
Okay.
term? I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Well, are we
No,
changing the
you
wording of
just-
the bylaw, or are we having them remove it?
No,
You're
I-
advocating it be repealed right now.
So if that's the case,
Right.
the wording doesn't matter. It's
We
gonna
don't want
keep
to
it.
try to rewrite it.
Yeah.
We're having enough problem
Well,
writing up a letter.
yeah, well, if you're
as
gonna-
writing
if
their
you're gonna-
bylaw.
all right.
But that was one of the issues.
Yeah, that's,
So they're deferring to you still, to the commission, if the bylaw apply, if this particular bylaw, so maybe instead of zoning, we want to say if the stream setback bylaw applies. Is that what's happening? They're coming,
Well, we don't need a stream setback bylaw.
well,
We don't, we
Why?
already have the tools to delineate where is the right location for the work activities in relation to the stream.
But this paragraph is saying what is current.
right, but to me, it's saying, this is something that's permitted and handled by the ZBA, but they have to defer to the Conservation Commission to make the determination if this bylaw applies, right? Or am I misunderstanding?
that's how I'm reading what's written here. If you look at the bylaw again.
They
Badly written, let's put it that way, right?
they put it in front of the commission to determine if it applies, to determine if the building structure is within 20 feet of an embankment.
Right.
So it should be
That's-
determined if,
That's what they're currently doing.
so maybe we want to say that to determine if the building structure is within,
Well, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Determine
It
if the
doesn't
zoning
have to be
bylaw
too-
applies.
okay,
It just doesn't have to be only a structure. It could be changing the grades around, the property within
project.
50 feet. Yeah, right. I'm not sure where we're at
But
right
they're
now.
still saying that they're asking commission
Yeah,
if this bylaw comes into play with the project.
I always thought they were saying that, that the commission needs to tell us where the 50-foot setback starts and ends, is basically what I was getting out of it. But we couldn't do,
Are they
well, then we
asking,
get back to the other stuff that we tried last time.
oh,
are they asking where the embankment is, the location of an embankment?
They don't know where, there's no guidelines for them to tell them where to start where the bank starts and stops. They call it an embankment. That's wrong. Because an embankment is actually creating a channel, and it doesn't meet all the performance standards for the 8 interests of the act anyways. I don't know how to word this.
There.
I need, but that's the thing. It needs to, the best thing to do is get rid of it. That's what I'd like to do, is just get rid of it, because we can handle it by ourselves. We don't really need.
You could go,
zoning board
Ken,
actually-
you've got that to locate an embankment and just
We want to quit using
finish
the word embankment.
and determine if the zoning bylaw applies to a project. Just take out that period you put in there and
Yeah, keep in mind, this is what they're asking. This paragraph is what they ask of us currently. Whether it makes sense or it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, this is what they're asking us.
right.
yep.
The worse it sounds, the better it is, because it doesn't make sense, which is why we don't want it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, as written. Yes.
The to determine.
Yes, that's good.
Is this last part, oh, permitting determination regarding setback distance? Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, next paragraph. Although the current purpose and intent statement of the Wakefield zoning bylaw speaks to lessening the hazards of floodwater inundation, it does not provide the necessary guidance to inform a zoning variance decision protective against such hazards without reliance on the commission's setback decisions.
Can we pause there?
Yeah.
Can we say, although the current purpose, I think we don't need and intent. We pick one or the other. Oh, no.
Is it
Although is that really how it reads, the purpose and intent statement? Okay.
I don't know. Is
Okay,
that,
so leave that. I wasn't sure if there was a true purpose and intent statement. Instead of speaks to lessen, just say in the intent is to reduce. Bylaws intent is to reduce or something, or intends to reduce.
Judy, is it a purpose and intent statement, or is it just a,
It's,
Perfect.
yeah, it is purpose and intent.
Okay. So maybe we capitalize purpose and intent, and intent. I don't know.
actually, it's purpose only in the copy I'm bringing up.
Can you just say the current purpose and not
Yeah,
mention the purpose and
maybe
intent?
capitalize the word purpose if you wanted to. Because it is called out that way in the bylaw.
Well, that,
And you could say purpose is to or intends to reduce the hazards.
is this all bylaws or just this particular one?
I'm just looking at the zoning bylaw.
Oh, I think it's just one bylaw.
This is section 190-3.
Oh,
Which is the zoning by part of the chapter, the zoning bylaw, chapter 190.
do we want to say chapter 190 of the Wakefield? I don't have.
Just, I think you're all right with what you had. Just purpose.
I'm gonna keep it lowercase.
Okay,
Fine. And then we've got, anything else on that first sentence, Eleanor?
the current
Or anyone else?
ban law is to reduce the hazards of, it does not, that reads better.
Can you just take out, just leave it as inform a decision, not just take out zoning variance decision, because their criteria is different. So it's the same meaning, but I think just taking that out will,
Where is that? I'm sorry.
Third line,
yeah,
What do you want me to do? Guidance
no
to,
zoning variance, and just,
take out the word zoning variance.
Yeah. because it's kind of duplicates, we're already talking about that, so.
thank you.
A
That's
decision,
still accurate, yeah. The proposed purpose statement currently before the bylaw review committee omits mention of floodwater inundation in favor of broader language, quote, to protect natural resources and prevent pollution of the environment and to mitigate and reverse the effects of climate change, period. Okay, that's just a statement of what's in the proposed.
the new version.
Yeah, it is unclear how the ZBA can make this determination in the absence of empirically based guidelines and performance standards accompanying zoning bylaw section 190-31H, by which to gauge an appropriate stream setback protective of either of the above stated purpose statements. Let's clean that up.
Can we say by which to gauge an appropriate stream setback that achieves either of the above?
Purposes, stated purposes, period.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
just say
Yes,
that achieves either of the above stated purposes. So yeah, the rest of that.
okay.
Yeah, can we accept changes and reread
Yeah, we can,
that paragraph?
Although the current purpose of the Wakefield zoning bylaw is to reduce the hazards of floodwater inundation, it does not provide the necessary guidance to inform a decision protective against such hazards without reliance on the commission's setback decisions. Yep, clear enough. The proposed purpose statement currently before the bylaw review committee omits mention of floodwater inundation in favor of broader language, quote, to protect natural resources and prevent pollution of the environment and to mitigate and reverse the effects of climate change, unquote. It's unclear how the ZBA can make this determination in the absence of empirically based guidelines and performance standards accompanying zoning bylaw, by which to gauge an appropriate stream setback that achieves either of the above stated purposes. Let's just go with purposes instead of statements.
Okay,
Okay,
mhm.
That, where it says, and reverse the effects of climate change, the period should be before the,
before the end of quotes, yeah. You're right.
Hmm. Okay,
All right. So we're dropping the next paragraph and moving down to the Wetlands Protection Act. The act gives the commission the authority to regulate activity from the top of bank to 100 feet from said top of bank for an intermittent stream and 200 feet for a perennial stream. Okay. The allowable limit of activity is based on whether the proposed work is either not significant
2,
to
yeah, not
Right.
significant 2, or will
I-
contribute.
or will contribute to the protection of the 8 interests of the act.
Do we mean to say it's either significant to or will contribute? That not seems out of place.
So what do you want to change it to? What
Well,
do you want to change it to?
I think that not doesn't belong there.
Well, it's confused. It is confusing. I mean, I've read it and I'm still parsing it. You're right, Eleanor. The allowable limit of activity is based on whether the proposed work is either significant. Is significant to the way the law reads or the regs read?
Yeah, significant too is,
Is,
yes.
okay. It's an awkward construct, that's all but okay, if that's what the docs say, we stay with it. Or will contribute to,
The protection of the,
Is
Eight
it
interests of the
contribute
act.
to, or is it? Ethan, what's the language for protection of the 8 interests? It's not contribute to.
I can look it up if
Yeah.
it's in the regs, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The allowable-
It says to protect the 8 interests.
I don't, but does that whole thing make sense at all? That whole line? It seems like it's contradicting itself.
Should it be insignificant?
The allowable limit of work is either,
It's determining whether it will have a significant impact or not, or protect the interest. So would it
that's a
read better
much
as
clearer way to
insignificant?
say it, Haley.
And should the or be capitalized?
No,
wait, say that again, because it's confusing.
The allowable limit of activity is based on whether the proposed work is either insignificant to or will contribute to the protection of the 8 interests of the act.
okay,
This, oh, it,
yeah, just
I guess
change the
it's just-
significant to insignificant to, since we're
I
sort of
think-
doing it as not significant to.
Well, the limit of, I think it works either way, to be honest with you, because
Okay,
you're using the limit of, you're determining that limit of work of where it's either insignificant or significant. That's where you're drawing the line. It's the same.
Pardon the interruption, you could use neither nor also.
I think I'd rather not. I think I'd have to we'd have to rewrite.
I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do though with this. We're gonna take this and get this finished right now, right?
Yeah,
And our next meeting, we're gonna look at one more time. We're gonna read it one more time and that'll be it. Because I think you let it sink in for a little while. It might be helpful.
Don't we have to
Alright.
turn this in soon though?
yeah,
And
I don't,
especially where the
Is there time?
beginning says
Is-
that we'd have a bylaw for review in January.
yep,
We're already in January.
Well,
can,
We can revise that
Let's
to
just
say.
try to wrap this. The allowable limit of
I
activity
think we should
is
keep
based on
significant
whether the
too.
proposed work is either. I think that not, if we're saying insignificant is the term, then we
Uh,
could say not significant to or will contribute to.
I think you need to keep significant too, because when you're talking about making a determination, it reads, the proposed work will remove, fill, dredge, alter is significant to one or more of the interests, blah, blah, blah.
That
It's
is,
just-
that is how the determination is written typically. So
Yeah, it's a theme in the Protection Act of
then we
determining if
should-
it's significant too. If you
then
find
we
it not
should put that
significant
not
to,
back in then.
Can we say the commission will make the determination whether the limit on the allowable limit of activity, sorry, I'm struggling with what we're trying to say in this first sentence because I'm used to seeing, the applicant has the burden to prove that their work will contribute to the protection of the 8 interests in the act.
But this is showing how the commission would review the setback. So it's showing what you're basing it on, giving a snippet of what the commission bases their decisions on.
this is just under under the general provisions in the act, just example language. We're the issuing authority. So if we determine that a resource area is significant to an interest identified, blah, 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 issuing authority shall impose such conditions, blah, 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 to contribute to the protection of such interests.
Can we just say something like the commission makes the determination of the allowable limit of work based on whether or not it will contribute to the proposed, contribute to the protection of the 8 interests of the act?
But the work is either significant to or will contribute to, I think. You can take out the is, yeah. Don't need the to. Okay, there you go. Solved.
Will be determined by or can we just say will be, because that reads weird. It's to. Can we say the allowable limit of work is determined by the Conservation Commission based on whether the proposed work?
Could change will be to is, yeah.
Well, we don't currently do that.
No,
We don't? Don't we decide where the limit of work is?
Allowable limit.
No, well, in a way we do. But, I mean, they proposed the work and
Okay, I'm fine with it. I think it looks great.
Do we want to say, sorry, the determination is accomplished through the understanding the applicant of the act and associated resource area performance standards. It is not achieved by the establishment of an arbitrary limit of work area as contained, or
No, just limited work.
No, just.
Okay,
Limited work
okay,
is
okay,
fine.
okay,
Just
okay,
limited work.
okay, fine. Well, since we're, I think I like that.
I don't like this, but
Okay,
it's
you can
okay.
delete that if you want to delete that.
It's up to you folks.
Or just take out, put the Conservation Commission as the subject matter experts. Is that preferable, Ken?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
the
that
only
does,
thing-
that sounds good.
Go back up, yeah, just the, right there, the allowable limit of, let's just get rid of the passive voice again. The Conservation Commission
Determines the,
determines the allowable limit of activity based on, et cetera, okay?
You know, does anyone see a problem with putting down instead of activity, work? Because that's what we were always talking about is the limit of work.
Mhm.
Or if it's, I mean, I don't care, I'm just.
Well, you gotta go through this and find all the word activities and change them to work.
Want me to do that?
We're gonna go to activity, we're gonna change everything from work to activity to work.
But doesn't activity, well, I guess I was thinking of like vegetation.
Yeah, activity covers work too. I think it's okay if they're not.
Yeah.
I'm no expert. I don't think they have to be consistent.
You're saying work, Jimmy, because that's their language that they
Yeah,
use?
yeah, because that's their language. That's what if
Mm.
you
All
read.
right,
the
I'm fine
regulation.
with going back and forth saying to regulate activity, limit
Yeah.
of work.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever you, doesn't matter to me too much.
I think it reads fine.
Okay,
I think we have a letter.
Yep.
okay, good,
Woo.
excellent.
Hey, Ethan, I'm gonna send this to you. Can you save, this red line copy and then save a clean copy with all the edits accepted?
Sure.
That way we have a record of what we changed if we need it, and you'll have a nice clean copy. Don't distribute a copy that has red line on it, please.
Okay,
Okay,
Do you want to vote on that?
yeah,
all right, we need a motion to approve this letter as redrafted.
okay, but I want to, if it hangs around, I want to send it, everyone to look at it for the last time before we, as long as it's time to do it, I'd like to take another proofread of it, just to make sure that you feel the same way as you do tonight. Is that all right? Or no one wants to do that?
The changes would have to be made at the next meeting, though.
Yeah, I know.
Is that time?
We'll do it the same way we're doing it now. Just take a look at it, read it. If everything looks good, just pass it along. We're done.
Do you want to take a final read at the end of, we can move on to another topic and then
Yeah, we can go off.
come
to
back
another-
and reread this letter at the end and then take
If
the
you
vote?
want to do that, I just find for myself, I do much better when I go back and look things over. I'm just basing it on my way of thinking, I guess. All right, let's move on then, right?
Okay.
Paul, where are we at?
Our last item on the agenda is the wetland bylaw discussion.
Okay,
We've dealt with the letter, now we're down to the bylaw itself.
I just wanted to go back to what Ethan mentioned about the timing. I mean, there's a lot of work that's needed on the bylaw and the regulations. So I mean, optimistically, you could do it and get on the planning board agenda, have the public hearing, and then get on the warrant. I just don't know if that's realistic. I mean, you just need to keep that in mind,
mhm.
that things need to be quick if you want that to happen. Otherwise, you couldn't do it till November.
Well, do we want to take a look at the bylaw and see
Yeah.
where we're heading with it, at least?
Is there any reason why we also can't have the attorney come and
What?
review it with us?
He's only contracted to do the bylaw codification. I don't think he would, I mean, maybe if the commission paid him, I don't. And I don't know who, I don't know if Tom Mullen usually reviews them.
Mm. Well, I don't necessarily have to have Tom here for that part of it. I'm not worried about that. I think it'd be, I don't know if he's got that kind of time to spend on it, because it's not gonna, I don't know how quickly you think we can do this, but I think it's gonna take a little while.
To go through this.
Right.
There's a lot more than 1 page letter here. 1.5
Well,
page letter, yeah.
I think, so my suggestion would be to make sure we have broad agreement on kind of the key points. You know, do we want to protect isolated vegetated wetlands? Are we all comfortable with the 25-foot setback? What are the areas that we need to fine tune?
Okay.
Like the meat of it. And then we can look at sort of language and stuff. Something I had in my notes was that the attorney had suggested that we look at the Concord bylaws. And while we may not follow the same, setbacks or things, it is very easy to read, very easy to follow. And I think it's probably easier to do something like that than struggle trying to come up with our own language for things that are sort of already codified in other places. But that's just my thought.
Yeah.
And I think if it's, this
I think,
attorney's, he's very
Ellen,
well
is it-
respected. Yeah.
Well, that's,
isn't there just a couple of things that we won't want to change? I mean, we're not rewriting the whole document, are we?
but
I was under the impression that,
the Concord bylaw is an older version, but the original bylaw the draft that I gave you was the MACC template. And that was what was going to be worked on. Because that contained all the elements that I guess are expected in the bylaw.
Okay.
Then I cut and paste from Linfield's because that was mentioned. And then it was going to be redrafted and then that didn't happen.
So, yeah, why don't we go through the key points and then let me ask a question. Does everyone on the commission want to see a wetlands bylaw passed?
I want to see
Yes.
some changes in it, but I don't think that it needs to be totally rewritten. I'm seeing some things that problem areas that I think we need to focus on and make some changes, and that would be it for me.
Okay. Do we want to go through those problem areas then? And
Okay, well, one of them would be the vernal pools and isolated land subject to flooding. I don't know where we're coming up with this vegetated wetland idea, but that's not a resource area. But I think that we need to expand that because that's an area that we see we had problems with over at the Vogue. And even if there isn't that many vernal pools left, I mean, we should probably try to protect whatever we can.
Jimmy, isn't that the point? Protecting isolated vegetated wetlands because they're not protected.
Yeah, but what is an isolated vegetated wetland? I haven't seen that term.
So Ethan sent us definitions, possible definitions, three different examples, and
What does it say?
I'll open it. I'll share again.
All
And
right.
I also have a definition from a different set of regs.
Mhm.
I don't know yet if that's appropriate. You can look at it, but the regs that I typically deal with do have it
So what,
defined, because we actually do look at them, even though the Wetlands Protection Act doesn't.
okay, so you're saying it's like it's a separate unit, like,
Well,
like if,
here are the definitions
These are the
that
ones Ethan sent over.
Ethan sent over.
yeah,
Right.
I got it.
Let me well, go ahead, read these. Ethan, where did you get these, or where they come from?
It was just a combination of various towns. I sort of pieced things together here and there. It's more of just like an example of what words you want to define and how to define them, whether you're keeping it broad or naming like specific things. It's just things you
Mhm.
can sort of build your ideas off of.
So can we start with the first one?
I think the first one is great because the biggest difference between a bordering is that and an isolated is that the isolated doesn't border.
Mhm.
So you're saying it's the same as a BVW, it just doesn't border on a creek.
Well,
I-
that's actually B. What about A, which is
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry. A,
That's 1,000 square feet.
that's
Well, that's,
a different.
Are we trying to focus on isolated at this?
Yeah,
point?
we were talking about isolated.
Okay, fine.
What's what's the difference between a freshwater wetland and a isolated? Like, I hadn't seen that freshwater wetland
Freshwater
used.
is more of a broad term that can sort of be whatever you define it to be. It just covers everything. Whereas if you say something like isolated vegetated wetlands, that's smaller. It covers a smaller
It's an umbrella
number of
term to
parcels.
include
Okay.
a bunch of different.
So which do we prefer, A or B?
Well, I think they're different items, aren't they?
Mhm.
It could be four different things, or it could just be one thing worded differently. Just mix and match it however you want. If you like things from one, you could take it, combine it with something from A or B.
Can we say, for example, substitute A with isolated vegetated wetlands that are not protected under due to being isolated, or that are not
Yeah.
protected? Yeah. Perfect. I like
That are
that
not
one.
protected due to being isolated. That's, I don't know if that's official language that's somewhere, but that's pretty good.
Mhm.
I don't know
1,000
about
square
the,
feet in area would be 25 by 40 feet, right?
Mhm.
unless vernal pools. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Unless they are vernal pools.
Yeah.
Be my
Would
only
you
thought.
say, yeah, in their edit, unless they are vernal pools? I don't. Okay.
That's all.
I like that definition.
Okay.
So I can show you the definition from the
Mhm.
from 314 CMR 9.
Sure.
That are not bordering subject to jurisdiction of blah, blah, blah. So it's, I think A is great. And I think A meets this definition, which is a definition in mass regs,
Mhm.
Okay.
but it's more specific. So I think it's great.
Let's go with A.
All right. Any other definitions that we're worried about? So Ethan, can you make that edit? Just put isolated vegetative wetlands are freshwater wetlands.
Yep.
So I don't have to send it to you.
Sure.
And unless they are vernal pools at the end.
Mhm.
Do we need a definition of vernal pool, or is that in the reg somewhere?
I,
That's in there.
What was that?
It's in there. It's in
Okay,
the,
perfect.
mhm.
Oh, shit.
Hang on. Streams can be at least 50 cubic feet of water.
I have a question. None of the other isolated wetlands definitions specify that they were freshwater. So I wonder if that's something that, would become a distinction that you don't want to make necessarily.
The town doesn't have any
We
non-freshwater
have no
wetlands.
no
associated
saltwater
with it,
wetlands.
or any saltwater related resource areas. We don't have any.
And so it would cover like a bog too?
Yeah, I could pull up the freshwater wetlands list
Yeah.
if you want. You can keep going while I look. I don't want you hanging on me.
Okay. I think vernal pools seem robust. Um, mm. Honestly, the thing, I don't know if we want to wait for you to pull that up or if we want to move on to another issue and come back to that.
Yeah, you can move on,
Okay.
please.
The part I wanted to talk through.
Oh, actually, no. I have it right here.
Okay, perfect.
Hold on 1 second. Inland, wet meadows, marsh, swamp, bog, bordering on, blah, blah, blah. These are the coastal.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't share.
Okay. I don't know if we need to define that or just put it in parentheses.
So freshwater wetlands is defined under the
Okay.
act.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to talk through the waiver, and that goes more on the regulation side, because I don't think we talk about the waiver in the bylaw itself. Here we go. So we say, I don't know if it helps to bring up the Judy's draft bylaw. Um, So I think in the regs currently, there's an exemption describing, houses built prior to 1983 would be exempt from the wetlands. And so I guess where I was kind of imagining, sorry, let me finish my thought. So when you look at when Wakefield housing was built, over 70% of it was built before 1989 and 80% before 1980. So it's somewhere in there. So my question is, if we pass this bylaw, and we come up with these regs, are we then turning around and saying, any house built before 1983 is exempt from this bylaw?
Well, didn't I send something around about the Linfield wording, what they have in their bylaw for the exemption? It doesn't apply to single family houses, but it applies.
You did, and I have to digest it. I guess I'm still stuck on the blanket thing. I was imagining more a exemption would apply to, sticking with the same footprint, or not being closer to the wetland, like.
I don't think that's, the ones that were referenced in that list, because they had bylaws existing. So it referenced the exemption from that date. But Linfield, I think, had more creative wording in that they're in the same situation as Wakefield is, and really in terms of build out. And what they're looking at now are bigger projects, commercial projects, apartment buildings. So that's where the focus should be. Because single family houses would still be covered under the Wetlands Protection Act. It just wouldn't be under this extra layer. So I think when you look at where that much housing has been built before the act, and that a lot of them were built closer than they should have been, they're penalized in a way if they're not given any more allowance to do work any closer than where they are. Because if they could provide mitigation, that could be helpful. But I just think I think that's a bad way to approach it. I think Linfield's is much more reasonable. Because it's prohibiting construction, really.
I don't know why we have to give any exemptions. I like you're saying about the big buildings. Yeah, I think those things, the apartment houses are affecting big areas, but these people, no matter what the date was, even if it's an old house, they might have work they want to do on their property that still requires them to have a permit. So why would you exempt them?
Because they were allowed to be built a lot closer than they would have been now.
No, I know but that's something you can make a decision on.
Mm-hmm.
You can just say to them, we don't think this is not gonna harm any of the interests of the act.
I think my concern is it would be less, it would be weaker than what happens today. I think just in what I've seen from the commission's pretty reasonable with, whoops, did I drop out?
Can't think this thing.
You're still
I can
here,
hear you.
Eleanor.
Oh,
I still see you.
Wasn't sure. I think the commission's pretty reasonable, and honors sort of where homes are built, but and there are places that are very close to wetlands, and I don't know that. I guess I agree with Jimmy whether we need such a broad exemption.
But if you have the bylaw and you're saying it's for protection of these other areas, especially the setback, then are you going to give a lot of leeway on a setback in a lot? I mean, that's where you're gonna run up against. How effective is the bylaw going to be if you're gonna apply it to those that were built? I mean, there have been a few before you recently that have had,
Mhm.
were built even in the eighties that were 10 feet from the wetland.
Yeah.
But don't you want those to,
I think we
I
still want to
guess,
see
and
them.
I'm
in-
not, I'm just kind of thinking through this, so I'm asking the question and trying to understand. Yeah, so talk me through an example that you've had recently, with the applicant and the 10, and they're 10 feet next to the wetland.
I'm sorry, will you say that again?
Sorry, just talk me through that example. So in that example today, you would let, like, they're already, in the beginning of the bylaw, we basically say people can demonstrate that they have no other alternative, that if we didn't let them develop, it would be too burdensome. So I think that's captured there. I don't
think we need, I don't think we need an exemption. I don't see it at all. I can see it maybe on the big buildings because that could have a big effect, but
Mhm.
I think 99.9% of the time, residential people get their projects approved, and I don't see why it would change. Just the way the regulations are now.
Right, but because the commission can change and maybe they'll,
Yeah, I know that. Well, if they do that,
okay,
they'll have to change those rules. I mean,
I don't agree with it.
okay.
I think it's reasonable to have the broader applicability as well. I agree with you, Jimmy.
Mm,
And another way to approach it, I had provided a link and maybe we could digest it. Danvers has a pretty stringent, detailed bylaws. They're very descriptive. I'm not sure they're appropriate for Wakefield, but just to look at some of the language where they sort of achieve some exemption by defining what a limited project is. So that could be another way to approach it, that,
But
home.
are you talking about utility work, the limited project?
No. More like limited, let me go to the link. Limited in terms of the work they're doing on their house, renovations, that type of thing, that they,
But is that wording in their bylaw, what the wording that's in the limited project exempt, under the, under the Wetlands Protection Act?
I didn't go back and double check. I have to pull it up. Hang on. I'm having issues getting to that link.
Ecological restoration limited project, Judy, is that?
No. It was,
One that the utilities are under.
no, it was
Oh, okay, I
specific
gotcha.
to work on the home. Where did I see it?
it's not-
Are you talking about minor projects? Minor project exemptions?
Yeah, no, there was a different definition. I'm so sorry. Let me go back and see if I can find the exact language. Um, don't wait on me. Let other people comment and opine. I'm anxious to hear what Ken and Haley think, and Paul. I do, Judy, like the focus on the big projects. So I just want to think through that a little bit more.
I like the big projects because if something goes wrong, they have the money to fix it. The residential homes, that's going to be tough.
Mhm.
You got to be able to negotiate something that's good for everyone.
So what are you suggesting, Jim, then, that we not apply this to single-family residences?
I don't think we need it because the regulations are already doing it for us. There's nothing we don't have that we can file, we can go through a notice of intent. And I understand what Judy's thinking. I mean, what the hell, if the house is 60 years old, there's probably a good chance they're not going to do anything. But I don't think that we have to kill them either. If a lot of it's just education, that people don't know. So if they might be doing plantings and stuff like that, we could have, Ethan could look at some of this stuff and give them some guidance, and we don't have to make it really hard for them.
Mhm.
I think it
So
works.
are
for
you
both sides.
suggesting that we should eliminate single-family homes from the jurisdiction?
Not from our jurisdiction for the bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I totally
Oh.
want it out of there.
Wait,
I
I'm
don't
confused
agree
now.
with that at all.
Okay, what are you doing with now that you can't take care of with things the way they are? There isn't a project here that you couldn't.
I guess the question, if we implement this bylaw
Yeah,
and we take single-family homes out from under the jurisdiction, then where are they covered?
they come through the Wetlands Protection Act.
But do we in some
You're not taking them out of the
form
Wetlands Protection Act.
supersede the Wetlands Protection Act? Or are people gonna look at this and say, okay, I'm not covered in the town bylaw, I'm done, I don't have to go to them?
No, because they would know they were still covered under the Wetlands Protection Act. They wouldn't.
How would they know that?
Why would they just go to the bylaw? If they have,
Why not?
if they
I
have a
mean,
wetland,
you go to Wakefield's bylaws and rules and
Yeah, I think it makes it very confusing.
yeah,
if they still
I
know
would
intent, then
I would be consistent with what they're required to do under the Wetlands Protection Act at a minimum.
That's what I'm saying.
That we're more protective, we do that
Yeah,
as well. But we don't eliminate anything that the Wetlands Protection Act is doing. I mean, we're basically using definitions from the Wetlands Protection Act. We're using pretty much the same language from what I can see
but
in
we're,
the Wetlands
the
Protection
whole
Act.
thing, the part that I liked about Linfield's exemption was, where do you want stronger protections? And what's been talked about before at meetings is the buildings like the 40B, well, the 40Bs wouldn't apply, but the number of apartment buildings that if they need extra parking, they need amenities, things like that, are pushing closer and closer
Mm-hmm.
to the wetland. So with
Okay.
policy, it's not really something the commission's gonna deny them because it's appealable. So if an apartment building wants to push back, then you can push back and say, well, you can't under the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
So
Except-
that's why I think it's better. It's a better protection for the larger projects.
But but right now, the larger buildings are going into, unless they're 40B, they can't go into residential areas, right? So,
I don't know. I mean, not in residential, but look along North Ave. I mean, along Water Street. Or a duplex. I mean, can
Okay.
that go in residential or triplex, something like that? Or commercial buildings along Audubon Road or
yeah,
on the
well,
park.
that's where you're gonna have the activities on Audubon Road. There's not too many places. We're running out of land.
I just wanted to point something out, which is that because this applies to isolated wetlands, people, single-family homes would not automatically fall under the Wetlands Protection Act
No, they would always fall under the Wetlands Protection Act
if it's an isolated wetland.
if it meets the criteria under the Wetlands Protection Act.
So then if we had this, like, I'm just looking at Linfield's example. You know, it basically says this bylaw shall not apply to any individual residential lot for single family use created before the enactment hereof. This bylaw shall not apply to repair, renovation, reconstruction, extension, or improvement of any single family home existing on the date of enactment. So theoretically, could a single family home, you know, encroach on an isolated vegetated wetland because our bylaw doesn't apply? Or can it build over a vernal pool and because the bylaw doesn't apply?
Yes. But I think that's like a worst case scenario thing because the isolated vegetated wetlands aren't something that occur often. There's maybe a handful that have been before the commission, and the vernal pools are the same thing. I don't think this is going to be a widespread, you know, suddenly there's going to be this massive encroachment on. I mean, the bigger concern to me is the bigger buildings that are going to be built. That's a concern I have. And that has a lot more developable area that's needed. Whether it's a commercial building, an apartment building, condos, whatever.
But our bylaw, as it is, would still apply to them
Right, and I think
without
that's
that
where the
language.
concentration should be. That's what I'm saying.
If I can comment, it sounds like that's being used as a proxy for wetlands damage, where it seems like the more accurate approach would be for the commission to evaluate the actual damage. I mean, I'd be personally more comfortable with a duplex going up that doesn't encroach on a wetland than a single family addition that does. And it seems to be, if not actually discriminatory, it sort of comes across as discriminatory to, you know, development that's not single family in a way that.
I would wonder why Linfield would have enacted it then.
I mean, I could imagine they might
They're a
want
bit
to
of an outlier though, aren't they?
I don't know. Well, I think you should just make a decision on the language. It's just gonna go around in a circle.
I think since it's not in the bylaw and it's only in the regs, I would propose removing it and focusing on the other elements of the bylaw.
Removing what, Eleanor?
Sorry, the 1983 exemptions. Or sorry, waiver.
So just have no exemption in the reg, is that?
Well, not this, and this is where I'm trying to get a feel of what other people think. To me, I think why pass a bylaw at all if you say it doesn't apply to 70% or more of existing homes in Wakefield and won't apply to future homes being built so long as they're single family. That means it doesn't apply.
No, future homes being built is in there. For new houses, it does apply.
So where is this in the draft I mean, the last draft I have goes back a while, so.
It's the Linfield wording that I was saying.
Okay, I don't have that on my screen right now, but Honestly, I'm not keen on that at all.
On what, Paul?
On the Linfield wording, I think
Oh.
if we're going to pass this bylaw, it should be broadly applicable. We can make the decision easily at a meeting to, you know, to authorize activities. I mean, we haven't been in the, as Eleanor noted, we have not gotten in the way of developments, of individual homeowners doing projects. We have had at least the ability to call individual homeowners on actions that did damage to wetlands, which would appear we won't be able to do except by invoking the state authority in the future.
Can I ask, so like, what would be the harm in leaving it, do you think, Judy? Like if we didn't have that waiver or exemption or whatever it may be, what's the negative if we do it the opposite of what you are suggesting?
Well, I think there are so many homes that were built before the regulations along the Mill River, the Saugus River, Pan Boulevard, that whole area, that were a lot closer than they should have been. And if they want to do an addition, it's going to either be a lot more mitigation or it's not going to be allowed. I think that I would just rather see the focus on the impacts from larger buildings that we're surrounded by.
Right, but leaving it wouldn't take
Leaving it-
away the focus from the larger buildings. It would just say you still have to come before us, and then it can be a discussion from
Right.
there.
Right. But if it's the it's the smaller homeowner that I think has the burden on this. The people that are in houses that were built closer, that shouldn't have been built as close as they are.
Right, and we're not
Right.
saying they have to take their home now and move it further away. We're just
But as the
saying if
commission
you're going to
changes-
do more work and get even closer, that's a discussion to be had on whether that'll have
Right,
negative
and
effects.
right. But if you're enacting the bylaw, then you're saying the expectation is we're gonna be stricter on the 25 feet. So for someone who's already within, 25 feet, then that's all I'm saying. Looking-
Right, but if they're not changing their footprint, then that's different
But we're not
from
talking
them
about
saying they
changing
want to
the
get up to
footprint.
2 feet.
Right, but we're talking about if they wanted to put an addition on or something like that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, this wouldn't
But
be,
There's nothing,
you can't and you're not
But they
allowed.
come to us today anyway. I just think people would have the impression that they were exempt from any wetlands
I don't think so.
regulations if we
I
put
don't-
that in there.
Yes.
I don't think
I-
so, because you need a wetland plan and that person would know you need to file a notice of intent.
How would they know that? Like if they don't even know the Wetland Protection Act exists?
Who
How are they
We've
just
had
gonna know these?
that happened relatively recently.
Yeah,
no, I don't. I think that's a rare occurrence that you might not know there are wetlands there, but if you're having work on your house, you're getting a plan. And if there's a wetland right there, then who's ever doing your plan would know they have to have someone come out and look at it.
we've seen
I
people
don't-
pay, sorry.
I just don't agree with that. I think that, I know that can happen, but I don't think this is gonna make everyone just suddenly oblivious to any kind of rule like that.
all right,
I don't-
so Judy, so what are you saying? You want to exempt
No, I'm
single family?
no, I want to end this part of the conversation. I just want you to decide what you want. If you want to take that out, that's fine. I was just throwing that out there because I think it makes more sense.
Well, I'm interested in what you were saying,
I
just,
already went over it. I'm not gonna go over it again. So I just want you to
Mhm.
come up with a decision because it's just going around in a circle. If you want to keep it, if you want to take the 1983 out, whatever you want, it's fine with me.
Is there an implication of getting this passed by keeping it in or keeping it out? Is there a perception? Is there this may not pass? It may not be a go if that's included.
there's always that possibility, but I mean, if you
Or not
said a
included,
town-
I guess.
if you said a town meeting, you're a single family host and you don't need, you're exempt, anyone's gonna love that. I mean, is there really a foreseeable damage that you could do at 25 feet away with your activities? I mean, in real life, is that really gonna hurt something, or we just being cautious?
Well,
I mean, I think that, I don't think we should be exempt. I think it should, I could see you making it less cumbersome. Maybe they don't have to put in as much information, especially if it's an attachment to the house, they can measure right off the house. But to just blanket say, you know, just go ahead, do whatever you want, you're exempt. I don't know if that's the best thing to do.
no.
My thought would be to remove it. And then in the public hearings, we can see if there's, it's not there and we just get feedback and we focus, that way the focus is on the things we want to pass. If the goal is to focus on the 25-foot setback, protection of vernal pools and protection of IVWs and keep it simple, I guess.
So what language are we actually working on right now?
So I think what was, I don't know if anybody can pull it up. Are the regs posted on the website, the draft regs, Judy?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So we're looking at a proposal from Wakefield.
No, these were sent around a while ago. These are the proposed regulations.
I can't share my,
Proposed bylaw.
I think that for me, what's confusing is the language on the 1983 exemptions is not in the Wakefield proposed bylaw. It's
Right.
in the
Right, the
Wakefield
bylaw and
regulations.
the regulation are two separate documents.
I understand that, but most users are not that sophisticated. Most homeowners would go read through the bylaw and say, I think it just would be confusing to have it. The examples when I've gone to other towns, this is just me, and I read through them. The best examples I think are where they're similar, and you don't have things in the bylaw versus the regs that are different.
They're supposed to be separate things.
I know there's more detail in the regs, but again, this is just me not being as familiar and just finding examples of the ones that I thought were easiest to follow. And I think down the road, if the commission finds that it's it's overly burdensome and you want to think of a different approach, then it would probably be easy to get that added in. Like an exemption is easier to add in at a later date than putting in more protections. Don't we think, or do people disagree?
I agree with that, Eleanor.
I think it's hard to go back, put something out there and then say, oh, whoops, we made a mistake. Let's be more restrictive,
I said, let's think about it.
I think, well, I think we have to make some decisions tonight, whether we need to finalize language tonight. I'm not sure, but I think we do need to talk through realistically what that timing looks like of getting something to the planning board and whether we need to potentially schedule just an additional meeting to, then go through this in more detail. But at some point we have
What's So what's the notice requirement? How far in advance does something that's going to go on the town meeting?
Well, it has to go to the planning board first. It has
Okay.
to be Put on their agenda.
So,
They have to.
but
post
I'm
it.
just trying to understand, for purposes of the town meeting warrant, when does it have to be in whose hands? And before that, it has to go to the planning board. How much before that, before the town meeting warrant, does it have to be at the planning board? I'd just like to understand the timeframes here.
They haven't announced what the closing date is for the warrant, but it's usually at least a few weeks before the town meeting or a month or something,
And the spring town meeting is when?
end of April.
End of April? Okay.
It's,
So we've got an end of April deadline. So early April for a final doc from coming out of the planning board. The planning board would have to do 2 hearings on it before they can act on it.
One, but have an extra hearing if they want.
And they have a requirement of what, 2 weeks notice?
I don't know what their lead time is, and their legal notice postings have to be posted for 2 weeks. So I don't know if I don't know how their postings are. It's not the same as ours.
Okay.
I,
Sounds like we would have to be done with this no later than early February.
I think that's too late.
You think it's too late?
I mean, you'd have to see when the planning board is meeting, you know, I don't know what their meeting dates are. And then if you can get on their agenda, that's the other thing,
Mhm.
depending on what they have going on.
Mm,
well, I could reach out to Theo Noel on the planning board and see what their agenda looks like and what their timing is.
But it needs to be written. I mean, it really needs to be rewritten. It can't be submitted as it is.
Well, I think we agree with that, but we just want to figure out what the timing is and what we're working with. The MBTA communities, they did that in 90 days.
Right.
was very
but someone who's
fast.
working on it full time
Correct.
and who was well versed in it, knowing how to write it.
Mm-hmm. Were presentations prepared the last time you guys did this, and is it possible to circulate them? Did you guys prepare presentations to the public?
For the last bylaw go around.
Yes.
But
Yeah, they probably did. I'm sure they had some presentation. I don't think, don't know if there's any record of it.
Who's they?
The commission, you talked about the commission. And the
Yes.
commission should I do bylaw? Yeah, that was, when was that, 15 years ago?
Jimmy, do you have any recollection of a presentation for that?
well, the only time we went wasn't it with Dick Laramie?
No, there was another one after that, when Dave Sullivan was on.
Oh, I don't remember what was done with that stuff. Mm,
Okay.
And if there are questions at the planning board, if the public has questions that the planning board wants followed up on, things like that. So that can add the time constriction.
So if we didn't make this next town meeting, we'll go to the next one. I mean, it's gonna take us more than just this. How many more meetings do you think?
I mean, we've said that before, though.
I know, but you know, it's not the only thing we have to do.
Right. I think now, just having observed your schedules for 2 years, it seems like the January, February seems like a relatively quiet time, and then things really pick up. And so if there's time to really focus on this and work through it, and again, even if it's an extra meeting to hammer through, I'm not sure if people would be amenable to it, but I would certainly volunteer to do that.
So what are our action steps right now to move forward on this?
I mean, we can go through it and we can give comments if Judy wants to take them, or see what the commission feels like. And at
Oh.
least see if there are any other issues that we think we have to work through. But I think in general, the
I don't know
bylaw,
what we're taking the comments for. I
the
don't, I,
bylaw,
I
I'm
don't know.
sorry.
You said I was taking the comments. I don't know what you mean.
Well, you sent a draft. I'm not clear who's taking comments on the bylaw draft.
Who's putting the comments in, do you mean?
No, I have comments. I wanted to share them. I was hoping to share them tonight. I'm not sure the best way to do this. That's all I'm saying. And maybe that's helpful. There are just a couple of comments I had, but we can see if the commission can identify
Sorry, I thought you
other
were talking about editing. I'm
issues.
sorry. No, I'm
I'm
sorry.
s-
That was my
I'm
mistake.
sorry.
I thought you were talking about editing. I misunderstood. Sorry.
I don't know if that would be helpful to the commission. Just, I could put up the.
I would like to hear your comments.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
work through what you've got there, Eleanor, and move on from there.
Okay. Give me a second. And I'm going to turn off my video because my memory isn't great on my computer, and then I'll try to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Oh boy, if I drop off. Let's see. I'm going to share. I think I have to send a request to share.
You should be okay to share.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Should be able to now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this again. Send request.
You don't have a little green arrow on at the base of your screen that shows share?
Yeah, when I click on it,
Yeah, I okayed it.
oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Share. Now it's hard. I have to figure out where to move your windows. So this is just on the bylaw. And again, these could be just nothing comments, but I think the comment here I had, this is just organization, like the purpose statement I liked. I just included the way Concord had a similar purpose statement, but it was just easier to read because they did it as bullets, and laid it out like that, which I thought was just easier to understand for a reader. So that was like the only comment there.
I agree with anything that breaks up some text.
Yeah. I think I had under definitions, do streams include rivers? Other bylaws reference rivers and floodplains.
They're all included under stream. Rivers are under the stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this part last time. Let's see, jurisdiction. So it was the 25 feet. So we're saying this bylaw applies, particular bylaw applies to the 25 feet. I think we had suggested adding some language that, while the Wetlands Protection Act and the commission have authority at the 100 feet, this particular bylaw applies to the 25-foot area. Did we all agree on that, or did people have objections to that?
Could you just go upwards slightly so I can read the whole sentence?
Yeah, let me see if I can make it smaller. I'm gonna try to make it a little smaller. It barely fits.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
No person shall remove, fill, dredge, etc. without a notice of intent. Okay,
And again, I think I like this. It's just clarifying that the commission still has jurisdiction.
yeah,
You know.
I hate to say it, but there needs to be punctuation there before that without. There needs to be something because it's almost impossible to tell how you got there.
Oh, where are you without?
The second yellow line. Resource
Oh.
area without a notice of intent. I mean, what we're saying is no person shall do any of these things without a notice of intent to, rather than with, I think, the Wakefield Conservation Commission and receiving or without filing a notice of intent with let's put filing rather than to, filing a notice of intent with the Wakefield Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I think I like that better. So leave that
Here's
as
my. Okay. Ew, don't need that.
okay.
So I'm just going to add a comment here. Add clarifying. This is just notes so we don't dilly-dally on this.
Okay.
I think here I did the jurisdiction Concord example, and it's similar, but I was just pointing out they had 100 feet, and then.
So this is the same jurisdiction as we just went through from our own draft.
But with this is the
This is an
Concord.
alternative approach.
This is an alternative approach.
Except as permitted by the commissioners provided in this bylaw, its regulations, no person shall commence to remove, fill, dredge, etc. Alter or otherwise alter the following resource areas. I like this because it's more clear and direct, frankly.
Let me go down.
I mean, it says, unless you've got this approval, you can't do this. Ours, you sort of have to wander through a whole bunch of text and get lost before you finally find the, so this is a little bit more.
But you could take out beach because
Oh,
we're not coastal. And intermittent stream and river can just be stream because they're both covered under that. And brook, creek, they're all covered under stream.
okay, hang on. Where was beach? So this can come out. Water bank, boarding on a
And reservoirs either.
right. Crystal Lake's not a reservoir.
I don't think so. I thought freshwater wetland was gonna be, was the umbrella, so you didn't need to line everything else.
Any freshwater, so we can get rid of this. I'm just gonna put parentheses. Probably not, we don't need a flat, right?
And bank, you wouldn't need to define everything it's bordering on either.
So we don't need,
Well, you wouldn't have to have perennial intermittent river, brook, creek.
okay. We just say any stream, like pond, stream. And that covers river, brook, or creek.
Yep.
And adjoining.
Let's put an or before stream. Mhm.
You guys still see this if I make it smaller? Okay.
It's all right so far.
Me,
It's about as far as you can go, I think.
yeah. 2.4, any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek, the land thereunder. So you,
You only need stream.
okay, and perennial,
And it doesn't, any stream, you don't need perennial,
okay.
because it would be both.
Okay, stream. River, so you don't need these.
No,
Where does the isolated fit into this?
This one doesn't have it. Isolated is only protected to 5,000 feet. So I think we could go down and see how that reads.
I have a question. So the bylaw draft that I think is Judy's most recent draft didn't specify bordering. But it looks like bordering is now specified under 2.1. And that makes it not apply to isolated wetlands.
Oh, let's see what Judy had.
Yeah, I guess that was my
That-
question.
Okay. So we need to add,
We'll go back up to your first version of jurisdiction.
yeah,
Well, I think you would remove the bordering clause.
Yeah, just
and
just
that's
removing
would
bordering.
make it comparable to what previously existed in the
freshwater or bank,
But
It's not enough just to
Comma.
take out bordering. You're gonna have to do some.
let me see. She
But-
said bank, oh, go on.
but a freshwater wetland as
Mhm.
defined doesn't include the isolated. So if you say freshwater wetland, it's not going to include, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Except didn't we just
So
define it?
if you omit bordering, it's still not clear that you're saying including isolated.
What you're suggesting, Ken, is any freshwater wetland or bank and adjoining lands out to a distance of 100 feet known as the buffer zone?
You could put, you can leave it as is and then just add, isolated wetlands. I don't know if it's right after that or 2
Can we just
whatever.
say isolated wetlands here?
But the isolated wetlands don't border on anything, so it has to be.
Yeah. Bank. Can we just say and any lake, pond, stream or something?
That was in the original Wakefield draft.
Yeah, what's above?
This is what I'm getting. We just said any freshwater wetland.
Yeah,
And lake, pond, stream, creek, estuary, land under water bodies, land subject to flooding.
yeah. I mean, I'd use that language.
Okay. Let's see.
I mean,
This one.
I'm not sure we need the other one then down below.
We do somewhere specifically define isolated wetlands. I just think it needs to be in here somewhere.
Yes, agreed.
specifically called
Yes.
out.
Absolutely.
So what if I just change this? I'm going to delete this paragraph and take Judy's language here. Any stream, bank, freshwater, wet meadow, bog, vernal pool. We've streamed twice. Oh, here we go. Any freshwater wetland. Right? If I got rid of this, I don't know how to. Once I delete, guys, since I did this in track changes, it's gone, but I would just delete this and
You can do delete.
like that.
Yep.
Does that get us there? And then it's protected. So again, this was the part I was working out if we need to fine tune that, because I understand the point that this particular, I think we were trying to limit it to just 25 feet.
No, vernal pools, I think, were 100.
100 feet, okay.
100-foot buffer around
Buffer,
the vernal pool.
vernal
yeah.
pool, okay. Okay. And then, okay, so going back to Judy's, the original bylaw draft, I think this was all fine. The permitting process, permits and conditions. I had a comment here. So I think, you know, without defining the jurisdiction, to somehow address the 100-foot or 200-foot, this part seemed inconsistent, I guess is the word, down here, or confusing. So that was a comment I had. I don't know if anybody else thought so. I think this was, let's see.
Well, I mean, this is more protective than our 25-foot buffer above, yes.
Mhm.
But I don't see any reason not to have it here. It gives us the ability to push for maintenance of vegetation and the like within 100 feet of specific resource areas and 200 feet of rivers and streams, which is essentially what the Wetland Protection Act does.
Okay. And I was,
But that is our jurisdiction.
right.
So
So that's fine. I think I like this. My point was, and I'm probably not articulating it well, that I wanted to see something about that up in here, you know. And so I think, you know, this was the point, add clarifying language that the commission has 100 feet jurisdiction kind of thing. So that was sort of my only comment to make it kind of consistent, because we're saying we do down here. So it's, I don't know what people think, or if they want to just think on that a little bit.
it does seem to be a little bit of an inconsistency. Right here, you're saying 100 feet. And then immediately below, under setbacks, we're basically saying 25 feet.
So this was, now I don't know why I stuck this in, hang on, because I did this a long time ago. I wanted to paste in the Concord language under, so the way they set it up is setbacks under permits and conditions. And so they define it. So we don't have to use that. I think I was just kind of comparing and contrasting the way they set it up.
If you add that in, it's going to require a bunch of additional edits.
Yeah, so we can omit that. Determines that. So this, I don't think is necessary. It's more like a organization approach. So I'm going to delete that. In the
Okay,
case,
so let's just, in the case of areas within 200 feet of rivers and streams, no permit issued hereunder shall permit any activities unless the applicant.
I think the comment I would only say here is it's a little,
That's fine.
yeah, maybe like a little bit wordy here, but again, I think we can come back and wordsmith a little bit. But it's fine. I have nothing, permit shall expire after 3 years from the date of issuance. I think all of this was fine. So this is all about the permitting process. So I assume, I didn't have any comments on this section. I assume nobody else did either. Following a public hearing, rules and regulations shall be promulgated by the commission to effectuate the purposes of the bylaw. I think the only thing I would say here is wherever we could just use simpler language would be good. Like enact, I don't know, the purposes of the bylaw.
Well, it's more than an act, it is effectuate.
It is effectuate, okay.
Means to
Okay.
place them into effect.
That's a good point, okay. This is all fine. Waiver,
Now, where
You
is
know-
this waiver supposed to go?
I think I had put in a link again to the Concord one, whether you follow the particulars, the organization and how it kind of gives breaks on the eyes. It's a very nice format to follow. So that would be my suggestion there. I think, why did I put this in here?
Well, I'm wondering about above though, Eleanor, right
Oh,
there.
here.
We go severability, so that's usually the last thing in a bylaw. And then we have this clause for waiver. Seems to me we've got to decide where to put that in the bylaw. It doesn't belong just dropped at the end. It really should be part of a section or a new section of its own somewhere.
Right. And this is where I thought the Concord bylaw, I can pull that up quickly, but this is
Well, let us
How
read
they
the
were-
two of them together. and
Together,
see what we
okay.
think. Just,
yeah, let me see if I'm going to just make this a little smaller.
there you go.
Okay, let me,
When it's duplicative, our first line is duplicative. Strict compliance with this chapter may be waived when in the sole judgment of the commission, when in the sole judgment of the commission.
I'll delete that.
Such action is in the public interest and is consistent with the intent and purpose of this chapter. Okay. And a person may request a waiver by submitting a waiver request in writing. Yeah.
Paul, you're so good at reading. Do you want to read the second one?
All right. The commission may waive specifically identified and requested procedures, design specifications, and performance standards or other requirements set forth in its regulations, provided that A, the commission finds in writing after, I don't think we need the word said there, but public hearing, there are no reasonable conditions or alternatives that would allow the proposed activity to proceed in compliance with said regulations. B, avoidance, minimization, and mitigation have been employed to the maximum extent feasible, and either C, the project considered in its entirety would result in a net benefit of resource area values, or D, the waiver is necessary to accommodate an overriding public interest Or to avoid a decision that so restricts the use of the property as to constitute an unconstitutional taking
It's not bad.
without compensation.
So that, isn't that language already? I'm looking at an old version, but I see that language under permits and conditions somewhere. So are we trying to pull it out specifically under its own section?
So this is where I thought some of our, let's see,
That
Yeah.
red is the Concord wording.
yeah,
Red language is
it
not
is-
ours,
part
it's
of it's
Congress.
incorrect.
So wherever, I don't know which one I'm looking at. Unfortunately, I have like 4 of them open, but the one that has that specific language, so I'm guessing it's Concord, has it under the permits and conditions section.
that's probably why I put it under here.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's
Where
where
they
that
have it.
language lives for them.
Yeah, it's almost like the waiver should go there, and these things, these burden of proof, appeals, severability should maybe go.
I think those stay at the end where they are, because those are like sort of the last procedural things you throw in.
Oh, okay. So
in
like
the
we
little
would,
bylaw. The
whether
waiver,
it's
I think Ken is
Judy's-
right, the section on waiver probably goes up into the section on permits.
okay. Oops. Okay, oops, now we can't tell which is which. I'm gonna just make this blue. Oh, it won't do anything. So I'm gonna call this
Well,
original. Do we have one we like or the other? Sorry. This is Concord.
So the Concord example, I just have some questions on.
Yeah. And it's not perfect. Again, this was just sort of showing where they move it. Paul, I can't see anyone because the screen's up on my thing, so feel free to.
So it would have to. The last line, a previous commission member who left in April was a real estate attorney.
Mhm.
She said it can't read unconstitutional taking without compensation.
Okay,
The commission can't. So there was,
can we just say this, that it restricts the use of the,
What-
like, delete the last
what-
part?
was that, Teresa said what, Judy?
she said the commission isn't in the position to create an unconstitutional taking. And also,
Disagree that we certainly don't have the authority to do that, but
she said it wasn't, you couldn't have that wording in a wetland bylaw.
Hmm,
Because she's saying the wetland bylaw would create an unconstitutional taking. And she said the commission didn't have the standing, I think it was, to say that. So how would they define, it says would have to result in a net benefit? And does it have to meet AB, where's A?
I mean, this is where I kind of like, I like this language too.
Yeah, and I think that, well, I don't know, I think that's what gets talked out in the hearing anyways. You know, could you move the driveway here or could you do it here? I think I see that as the alternatives analysis.
I don't see why we need to go the Concord route particularly.
Okay,
I think the section above the original from the Wakefield draft says what we want it to say.
Okay,
The only question is overriding public interest.
If housing is needed, if it's,
if it's a
Yeah, I mean,
school,
that one is the one thing I would think we might want to pull up and add to what the Wakefield draft had.
I think the only thing, oh, go on. I might just make this, if it's possible, make it bullets or something to just make it.
You can try. I don't think we need to spend the time tonight fighting.
No.
Bullets, but if you want to track, see if you can figure out a way to make it bulleted.
Bullets, and then you said add
It's that last D.
thing. Sorry.
Accommodate an overriding public interest, period, to there.
Okay.
I mean, as an example, the Beaver Dam activity we had to deal with a while back, where the beaver activity was flooding Water Street.
I think that would fall under
yeah,
the
that.
exemptions
that would-
versus the waiver.
That wouldn't be covered under this.
That would be an exception, all right.
But then would it be questionable, who's gonna define public interest?
Yeah, what's an overriding public interest then?
Yeah,
Well, maybe we just leave it out. I
yeah,
don't care.
Yeah.
It's not language I'm wedded to. I thought it was a useful element potentially to add, but if we're gonna fight about overriding public interest, the easy answer is don't go there.
Okay. So I'm gonna delete the Concord example.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Regulations. They're
I
gonna
don't think there's
effectuate,
anything much else
No.
here that needs changes. Thinking of
this,
setback, okay,
I feel like that needs to go up above. But we can read through it. I think, again, this might be,
where did the new setback language below come from, Eleanor?
oh, I think I was just pulling from Concord.
Uh,
Hang on. Oh, sorry, here was a,
all right, so.
so you wanna add buffer zone to the,
sorry, Judy, what's your, because
no,
you have,
no, I'm thinking out loud, sorry.
okay. Let me see if I can. How did I pull this up here? Okay, these are all kind of silly, so I don't think I have any.
The language in the first. I'm not sure the introductory clause is all that useful.
Mhm.
The based on experience to date with projects in the buffer zone. You could just start with the commission shall presume that work within 25 feet.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
Right there.
Well, hang on a second, do better than that.
They delete the opening clause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just did a,
Semantics, but on that last sentence, work shall mean, but not be limited to, should there be a comma? between mean and but.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Work shall mean, comma, but not be limited to,
Hmm.
just for ease of reading.
So I just did, again, the language
Not
in red
necessary, but
was Concord, compare and contrast so you could see which you like better. And it goes into a little more detail on the setbacks. So
the difference is that Wakefield one says this is may be overcome on a clear showing the nature of the proposed work, etc., will prevent a negative impact on the resource area. And Concord says this presumption may be overcome where the applicant can demonstrate with credible evidence that the proposed alteration or activity would have no individual or cumulative impact on any of the resource area values. So that's really the difference in approaches. Wakefield, we're talking about preventing a negative impact on the resource area. Concord is just saying it slightly differently. No cumulative, individual or cumulative impact upon any of the resource area values. I think our original language works pretty well. If you wanted to incorporate the individual or cumulative impact,
see if I can get it.
could prevent any negative individual or cumulative impacts on the resource area.
Yeah, I think I like ours better, actually.
Yeah, I don't think there's a need for.
Okay.
Oh, you taking that whole thing out?
I am. I think ours is shorter and it, I mean, the only part I like about this part, I think, is that it just comes out and says this. And so I would.
Well, on the other one, do you talk about like that one that's in red?
You could.
I like what says alternatively, the commission may waive the setback if it determines that an applicant satisfies the waiver requirements.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know what the requirements are or where you find them, but.
This is where they had it up above, like waiver, but I think in their thing
it's now been moved to section 8.
Whatever.
Okay.
I mean, this is easy to kind of figure out the numbers. I know this resource area is direct. I'm not sure the public knows what a resource area is, so it might help to bring in our sort of definitions again. Like even if it's parentheses.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just reference the Wetlands Protection Act? They could look it up. I think it's easy to miss something or they can miss it. I think resource area.
I would think, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Also, I would think also that just the fact that they've got to have to fill out a file, the first thing they're gonna do is hire an engineer.
Okay. Yeah.
Try to repeat yourself or define things as little as possible, as few times as possible to not screw it up.
How do you usually say this as defined in CMR, whatever? Okay, we can just add that. Is there anything else we want to pull from here?
An alteration of the resource area, is an alteration enough to trigger our jurisdiction? We're saying the commission shall presume that work within 25 feet of any resource area will result in an alteration of the resource area.
Yeah.
Do we want to say that an alteration of the resource area that will have an impact on,
Well.
or
this
we
is-
just
this is-
stop right, should we just stop right there?
I don't know, because this is saying,
They're
any
saying the
activity
same
or-
thing.
or
Mhm.
alteration.
Yep.
So they're saying if you changed anything.
Do we have jurisdiction to change
Oh, yeah.
anything within 25 feet? If we do, then that's fine.
But we give, their exemptions, like routine, utility work,
Yeah, understood.
yeah.
That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm just concerned about, we say alteration. And I guess the question is the presumption, or is the law here, the bylaw, saying that any alteration of a resource area is by definition something that's subject to our jurisdiction? Is that the case? If it is, then I'm fine.
Why wouldn't it be if it's an alteration?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think we're good with this, and I can get rid of the Concord thing.
Okay.
Okay. Because we caught that. So then we go
The question,
to,
the other question would be, where do you put that up above?
see, this is where I thought these setbacks and vernal pools.
Where do they belong?
Okay, if we open the Concord bylaw, there, I felt like just the ordering was a little more logical. Let me see if I can find that. Let me just go through the rest.
Well, we don't have to do it right this instant, but
Yeah.
I'm suggesting we've got to figure out where these things go. They don't,
Yeah.
obviously don't just hang on at the end.
Right. So I'll just go, so the vernal pools, I think
It's a pretty
I was-
comprehensive jurisdiction or definition, isn't it?
it's good. I think I hadn't seen the break and slope thing. But if that's standard, that's fine. That's typically how they're defined.
You're asking the wrong person if you're asking.
Okay.
me.
Judy or Jim, do you know how we define
Ethan?
Define what?
the
Vernal pool.
boundary of a vernal pool, which is higher, the first observable break and slope, mean annual high water level?
Mm-hmm.
Is that consistent with how they're defined usually, or how they're,
It's either
Set the
that
boundary.
or
Yeah, there's a little bit more to
observation
it.
of the staining on the leaves.
okay,
There are different
Mhm.
definitions.
so I'll delete my
Okay.
comment. Okay. I like the vernal pool section. I don't know if people had a chance to read that. And then this, I don't know if you want to call this out like with bolding or whatever, but I think, Jimmy, this kind of gets to your, let's not protect puddles, demonstrating that a ponding area is not a vernal pool.
Right.
Yeah, you could bold that out.
Okay. I'm just gonna,
Again, it's another thing that needs to be moved someplace into the body of the
Yeah.
bylaw. Just have to figure out where.
so that I liked. Consultant fees.
I think
I don't,
that all makes sense, the consultant fees.
Mm-hmm.
That probably it's appropriate to be towards the end in those last sort of administrative types of sections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then it ends here at consultant fees where I think to your,
It does, but that really probably should go up.
can I move these sort of last?
Either just before the term regulations or just after it, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is, what I'm suggesting is just taking these 4 administrative items and moving them to the end.
That's where they belong, yes, agreed. But those other 3 need to be fitted in the appropriate places in the
Yeah.
draft.
So what's this, consultant fees? I'm going to just move these at the end. And then I'm going to hit save. I think logically that makes more sense if people don't have objections. So the good news is I think we're mostly in agreement on things. I don't know if we want to take a quick look at the Concord bylaw just to see how they organize it. I have the link, but
Okay.
just pull it up. Where did I get here? Wetlands bylaw. So this is how they organize it. Purpose.
You need to
Yeah,
stop sharing this one and bring up that one if you want to do that.
Oh, shoot, I have to do the different. Okay, stop share and reshare. Thank you for catching that. Let me try again. Sure. Okay, can we see that?
Yep.
So again, this is just to look at the structure, the purpose. So again, I like this because it calls out things. Jurisdiction. Jennifer, I think, did Concord only have a 25-foot setback? She's still on the call?
25-foot setback. I'll check. Give me just a minute.
Okay. So this was, we had talked about
I mean,
jurisdiction.
the organization of Concords is easier to read, yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Then they do exemptions. So they do jurisdiction and then exemptions, which is different than waivers. And that took me a while to get to. In the exemptions is emergency projects. So I think, Judy, yours, your current draft had that emergency projects exemption, correct?
I'd have to check, I'm not sure.
Okay, so, I mean, we could always grab that. Then definitions. And again, I mean, you could change the order, but then definitions. Term vernal pools. Application and fees. Process, notice and hearings. Permits and conditions. So this was interesting that they do it later. Maybe they want to walk you through the hearing process and then this. So this was kind of, yes, under the permits and conditions, they talk about the administration, then decisions, factors in how the commission is going to determine things. I think we have this kind of covered, just organized maybe a little differently. And then buffer zone. So Judy does have a statement like this in the wetlands draft.
So Concord has a 100-foot buffer zone, a 25-foot no disturb, and a 75-foot limited no disturb. And then they have a 100-foot buffer zone for vernal pools.
Thanks. So that talks about that certified vernal pools and setbacks. So these things we were focused on are all in a section called permits and conditions.
Judy, quick question. Do lots of or all of the different towns' bylaws specify that the vernal pool has to be certified?
A lot of them say certified or uncertified.
I think the majority are uncertified, but I can look up the percentage.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you just have to determine what you want for language.
yeah, I obviously be more protective if you don't say certified, or it could be both or either.
Right. Well, so what's interesting about Concords is they seem to have more buffer, but less protection for vernal pools. Like I think their vernal pools had to be, they had to be certified.
We probably have a lot of vernal pools, but
Uncertified,
not
yeah.
a lot of certified vernal pools.
Correct.
Right,
And
so the
then-
majority protect vernal pools even if they're not certified. About 70% of the bylaws protect vernal pools that aren't certified, but Concord isn't one of them.
Thank you.
Mm-mm. And then setbacks. So this again is more for organization. And then it talks about, I don't think we talk about our denial process. Do we, Judy? And I'm just realizing this now. I don't know if that's
But I think that's covered,
under,
I don't know what section it was. Under requirements or something like that, if you had to meet the certain requirements.
okay. And then waivers, which we looked at. So I think recordation of permit, regulations, compliance, fines, fine schedule. We're not doing that, right?
No,
I think we'll skip
Burden.
on.
Burden of proof. Do we even need to say something like this if it's already under the Wetlands Protection Act? I don't. Judy, do you have a statement similar like this?
Like what?
This
Eleanor?
burden of proof.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
one
burden
that
proof.
says the applicant shall have the burden and obligation
Okay,
demonstrated
perfect.
by preponderance of evidence credible. It's just the first line that we have in there.
Okay, perfect. So that's it. So anyway, I think ours so far is good. I don't know how to switch back, but
Can you send this out to everyone?
my
What you've done
edits,
so far?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go
Okay.
back.
You have to
So I
stop
think-
sharing and then start sharing again. I wonder if you want to go
Oh
back.
shoot, sorry about that. Oh, hang on.
Well, wait a minute. Is it up on the screen there with one of those tabs?
It says consultant fees. Let me stop share and share again. It's hard to share multiple screens. So yeah, this is what we did. I think, I don't know, do we want to quickly look at the regulations or save that for the next meeting?
I think we should call it a night.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we've got.
I think this is,
I think the next step is someone's going to have to tidy this up.
Yeah, well, we'll have Tom go through it and look at it and
Okay. So he's gonna take the words we put on the page and put them into a format.
Well, I don't know, if
He would do, I think we could tidy it up.
Okay.
but he needs to review it anyways. I would like, wouldn't you think he should look at it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely want a legal review of the law.
yeah.
So let me ask you, like, in the interest of time, can we send this draft to everyone? How do we
Judy, I don't know, how's that work, Judy?
to this, Judy, or like, can we vote to say, we'll have, we agree on this language, but we'll have you reform?
can send the draft around and people can give comments, but they can't be talked about until the next meeting.
Vote, people can send individual emails.
I
Comments.
think that's considered serial communication.
Mm,
So how about, can we, if the only changes that are made after this is just to sort of formatting changes or groupings? Because what would be nice would be to get a draft that's kind of ready to go, like, to be seen by Tom Mullen.
Right.
I'd like to have the opportunity to, frankly, to read it. And I've only got another day and a half before I leave again.
Yeah,
So-
I would just send it around and then it would have to be discussed at the next meeting. If you,
Okay.
But
if
you
you
can work on it
my
individually.
laptop is about to
Okay.
die, so I don't know if that's
Okay.
gonna end the meeting.
All right, so why don't I send this as is? Let me do that. I think I have to close it.
So you want us
Um,
to take a quick vote to adjourn because my battery is about to die, and I don't know if that's gonna end the meeting.
Okay,
All right.
Most.
let's make a motion to adjourn.
Well,
Is
second.
there a second?
Second.
All
And I
right,
was-
all in favor, Eleanor,
Yeah,
Ken,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank
I will
you.
not be at the
Thank you
next
all.
meeting, but I'll be present in February.